Hi guys, I'm just gonna jump on here because I wanted to continue the California law AB 2223, which targets reproductive rights, but really just targets the coroner's limitations and actually redefines what coroners can do in the case of suspected self-induced abortion or illegal abortion. So the main thing that I wanted to address is the claim that California allows abortion up to 28 days. It is kind of an exaggerated claim, but however, it's not technically incorrect. And so that is something that I actually really wanted to address. Because technically, the law of California, if you've watched my other video on AB 2223, which goes over essentially the defining terms of perinatal death, which is death of a baby after it's been born due to causes that happened in utero. And that does include neonatal death, which neonatal death, the legal definition is up to 28 days. So perinatal death is usually up to 7 days after birth, and then perinatal death refers to a combination of fetal deaths, which can also include stillbirths, but a neonatal death specifically are deaths occurring in the first 28 days of life due to something that happened in utero. So AB 2223 targets the coroner and says essentially by law you can determine the cause of death, but if the suspicion is due to a criminal abortion or a self-induced abortion, the coroner's statement doesn't matter. It won't hold up in court, meaning there's no criminal penalties for a woman who ends up getting a criminal abortion past 20 weeks gestation or a self-induced abortion, i.e. Mail order abortion pills through telehealth or the internet, whatever the case may be. And AB 2223 covers neonatal death. When influencers are on the internet and they're saying California allows abortion up to 28 days after birth, a lot of people, especially pro-lifers or even abolitionists, they hear that and they're like, so does that mean that they're allowed to go into a clinic with a healthy baby and then rip them apart limb by limb the way that they would if they were in utero? That's what our minds typically go to. And so it is somewhat of an alarmist, I just learned that term, but anyways, an alarmist statement. So you can't do that legally, but what this is referring to is technically, yes, abortion is legal up until 28 days, only because there's no legal repercussions for a woman who decides to take a mail order abortion pill in her later stages of pregnancy. The pill ends up being ineffective, therefore she ends up giving birth to a live baby. But then because she ingested those pills, the baby is now harmed, and now the baby dies 10 days. Let's say, this is just an example. The baby dies 10 days after birth because of the pills that she took while the baby was still in utero. She's protected under AB 2223 if that was to happen. So that's, or even if it was a surgical abortion. If the baby ends up living and, she goes into, and, she ends up giving birth to a live baby, in either instance, in either case, she's protected under AB 2223 to not have any criminal charges for the death of her child because she took the pills legally while the baby was still in her uterus. So hopefully that kind of clears up some stuff. Hope you guys have a good day. Lord bless. Bye.